Okay, Keen, I think we're live.
Okay, thank you, Du. Good morning, near good afternoon, City Advisory Committee members. Thank you so much for joining us on this biennial with an E check-in with LAFCO. I'm calling the meeting to order at 11:02. The instructions on our agenda for public comment for those of you who are watching on our live broadcast on YouTube is on our agenda cover sheet. We will check in as we go through the items just to make sure if there's anyone who either wants to submit an email comment or actually wants to speak to the committee, we will check in again through Erica with LAFCO's staff. At this time, I'm going to ask Ruth to do roll call, and committee members, keep in mind, by way of your city manager, you are the designee of your city. So we will do roll call by city. And when your city is called, if you be kind enough to respond with your name and title. And that also then applies when we get to the minutes. If you weren't at our last meeting, that's okay. You're here representing your city. So we can proceed with those actions as well. So Ruth, if you'd be kind enough to do roll call.
Yes, here, this is Paz Gomez, Deputy City Manager.
La Vista?
Yes, this is Tiffany Allen, Director of Development Services.
Coronado? Anyone from Coronado?
That's a no.
Okay. Del Mar?
CJ Johnson, City Manager.
El Cajon?
Yes, hi, Vince DiMaggio, Assistant City Manager.
Encinitas?
Mark Deline, Assistant City Manager.
Escondido?
Jeffrey Epp, City Manager.
Imperial Beach?
Tyler Foltz, Community Development Director.
La Mesa?
I think we got a call, Ruth, that La Mesa's, Carrie from La Mesa was going to miss the call.
Okay. Lemon Grove?
Lydia Romero, City Manager.
National City?
Tony Winnie, Assistant City Manager.
Oceanside?
Deanna Lorson, City Manager.
Poway?
Good morning, Chris Hazeltine, City Manager.
San Diego?
I believe, Ruth, Eric Caldwell is going to be on the call from San Diego, and so when he pops up on the screen, we'll just note it in the minutes.
Okay. San Marcos? Santee? Solana Beach? And Vista?
John Conley, Community Development Director, City of Vista. Thanks.
There is a quorum.
Thank you, Ruth. And so now we're going to go to public comments. Erica, any email comments before the meeting or as we started the proceedings?
No, I have not received any email comments.
Very good. Thank you, Erica. And again, for those watching on our live broadcast, we will check in quickly for each item So if there are comments on any of the items, you might want to get those queued up either in email or be ready to log in or give a call, actually. So with that said, committee members, thank you again for taking some time out of your schedules to check in with LAFCO. As many of you who have been at these meetings before, we started this process or restarted this process a year and a half ago after the City Advisory Committee had gone dormant for a decade or so. And the idea here is twice a year we check in with our city partners so you get a real-time update on what we're up to, and certainly we try to guide our discussion on those projects that involve the cities. And again, the idea is just to keep the lines of communication open. Also, keep in mind, when I say on the agenda that we have a hard stop at 11:45, it is a hard stop, so you are certainly free to calendar thereafter. And I know Jeff and others may have to leave a little earlier today, so I appreciate, again, your time. I do just want to introduce the LAFCO staff team to the members. Among other things, we do have a new addition on our end. But depending on how your screen is oriented, I assume it matches mine. So on the upper left-hand Hollywood corner, we have our chief analyst, Robert Berry. We have Linda Heckenkamp, analyst 2. Where's Priscilla Allen is our new analyst 1. Priscilla just joined us in the last 2 weeks, among other things from her days at the Omni Corporation, and then a proud Sun Devil. And for those who are college football fans, that of course is Arizona State. Tammy Luckett is our commission clerk. Du New is our GIS and now IT analyst, thanks to COVID. Thank you, Du, for putting this on for us. Erica Blum, our administrative assistant, and then the voice you already heard, Ruth Arliano, is our executive assistant at LAFCO. So that is the LAFCO team. You've got all 8 of us on the screen, and depending on what the project is, one of us will speak to it. So again, this is, for the most part, with the exception of our minutes, all about discussion and all about just giving the committee a heads up on things that we're up to at San Diego LAFCO. So with that said, I'm going to proceed down to agenda item 5A. We do have minutes for the committee from our last meeting, which was March 13th, right before all heck broke loose in the universe. And again, by way of your representation of your city, you can go ahead and hopefully make a motion and second. They're in summary format, and I believe the minutes are, the meeting itself is recorded and available online. So I am looking for a motion to approve. We have John Conley from Vista. Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you. And that's Lydia Romero, if my ears are correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Lydia. So we have a motion by Connolly, a second by Romero to approve the minutes as presented. We will go with just simply a quick call. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Very, very good. Any object? Any abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Oh.
Delmar abstains. We were not present, I don't believe.
Thank you, CJ. Very good. Okay, so with the minutes taken care of, the next item on your agenda is just an update on the proposals that we have on file at LAFCO. I'll take this item. If there's any questions, I'm going to have to defer to Robert, but committee members, we have about 30 proposals on file. That means there are 30 pending active requests to modify governmental boundaries here in San Diego County. As you take a look at the actual summary in the agenda report, most of those proposals that we have active on file that have not yet gone to the commission, they're relatively benign, 1 or 2 landowner requests, mostly involving annexations to special districts to facilitate some kind of development, small development project. We do have a couple of bigger picture proposals. One of those I'm going to come back to in a little bit because it certainly is of interest to our city friends. It involves some special districts, but again, it does impact the cities. I will note that at our October 5th meeting in 2 weeks, we are going to consider a proposal to create a brand new fire protection district in the county, the San Diego County Fire Protection District. It's actually kind of the evolution of about a 20-year process here at LAFCO and with the county to create a service provider in the unincorporated area that, for whatever reason, historically have been missed and not included in other special districts service areas. So this is a big step in the evolution of the County Fire Authority, and among other things, gives an option going forward for cities, have another option available to it should, in the event any of you decide in the future, hey, maybe we should look at an outside service provider when it comes to fire protection. You already have a number of quality independent fire protection districts. In our mind, this is another option that you would have available to you, again, in the event a city is ever looking to perhaps streamline and transfer fire protection responsibilities in your municipal boundaries to a third party. So that's the big proposal that we're working on right now. And a little bit, we're going to talk about a Fallbrook Rainbow activity. But are there any questions from the committee members on any of these? And as I say that, let me open up my toolbox here. We can certainly use the hand raise feature in Zoom for those of you familiar. Also, if you grab my visual attention, we could do that as well. So any questions on item 5B, update on current and pending proposals? I don't see any hands raised, and I don't see any intense eye contact. So we will move on. Erica, any emails on this?
No, none received.
Very good. Okay, so moving on to item 5C. Committee members, as you know, when we talked to you last in March, we were telling you what we thought was going to be in our work plan for the upcoming fiscal year. Well, now you have the actual work plan before you. There's 26 projects. A number of these projects actually are carried forward from the prior fiscal year. Certainly, we are still emphasizing a number of municipal service reviews. For those of you in the North County, Vista, Escondido, San Marcos, and now Carlsbad and Oceanside, we are certainly still focusing in on our service review responsibilities in your neck of the woods. We're also doing a couple of policy updates that are pertinent. I'm going to talk about our ag policy update in a second, but there is another policy update involving what we kind of call here as Rule 4. Rule 4 is really focused in on special districts, but many of you rely on special districts for services. Some of you have special districts that are not necessarily competitors, but right next to you and are service options for your shared constituents. You may want to pay attention to our Rule 4 update, which is about how LAFCO goes about establishing, or rather categorizing, the service function in class of special districts. For Paz and others at Carlsbad, they've already gone through an exercise in getting a familiarity of why this issue is important, because ultimately at LAFCO, we're trying to take a 1975 policy and bring it into the year 2020. And certainly this means revisiting what it means to be a wastewater provider, a water provider, and the distinctions therein in terms of LAFCO law, retail, wholesale, and there's a whole lot of detail that goes in on it. But I would encourage all of you to have someone at your city not only pay attention, but as you see fit, participate in this policy update. Again, I think it's in the top 10 of our project listing, Rule 4 update. And if there's any questions about that, I would encourage you to reach out offline to Robert Berry, who's going to be overseeing that process. And again, it may seem like a district issue, but I think it is relevant for all of you at the cities to pay attention to. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on our adopted work plan in terms of any particular project as we go forward. I'm looking at the participant list. I don't see any hands up. Screening my monitor, I don't see any hands up either. Erica, any questions on this item from the public?
No, none received.
Very good. So moving on to item 5D, committee members, you may recall when we had our first meeting of this group in its reconfigured form about a year and a half ago, we told you we were going to be working on a policy update on our ag and open space policy. It's taken us about 18 months to actually have something in firm writing because the first iteration or our attempt went so poorly, I just didn't want to think about it for about 6 to 8 months. The commission was not happy. A number of the affected parties, Farm Bureau and others, were not happy. So you never really got to see the initial version because I buried it. Well, now in your packet, you do see staff's thinking on an updated ag and open space policy, a policy that is relevant to all of you in the development world, because should you ever come to LAFCO and seek to annex some undeveloped or green lands, this is the policy that you will likely need to address, certainly if the lands get even close to our definition, and our definition is a little different from cities and counties of what constitutes ag land and open space. And the background to this committee is certainly LAFCO has these two pillar responsibilities. We should be in the business of promoting orderly urban growth, but at the same time, try our best to prevent the premature conversion of open space in ag land. And how we come up with the idea of premature is certainly a work of art. We're trying in this policy to signal to all of you and to all of those in the development world what we believe are the thresholds to addressing that issue of when it is orderly versus when it's premature to build on ag and open space lands. The staff report that you have in your agenda packet online identifies 6 or 7 very substantive revisions that we're making, again, trying to modernize this policy. In particular, we are recognizing that ag and open space need to be treated differently. Right now under policy, we combine the two while we're trying to extract them out, have different and specific orientations towards proposals that involve ag land and specific and different orientations to lands that are deemed open space, with the latter dealing with this issue of habitat, natural habitat, something that our existing policy does not make the distinction. At the end of the day, we went through a lot of stakeholder outreach. I'm proud to say that right now, unless things get quirky on us, we've got the Farm Bureau on board, we've got Sierra Club on board, we've got the Wildlife Coalition on board. I think Robert is or has had a good conversation with the building industry, so I think we're in good shape. We have another 2 weeks before we bring this to the commission. I would certainly encourage any of you to take a look at this policy, have your community development departments vet it a bit. If you have any questions about its applicability going forward, let me know. This really is our effort to be, in good faith, an open disclosure of the things that are going to be on our mind should you bring us proposals involving what we think is ag and open space lands and our allowances or prohibitions therein. So if there are any initial questions, by all means, and again, you have a few weeks before our October 5th hearing to maybe submit something more substantive to us as we bring this item onto the commission, hopefully for adoption. So any questions from the committee? I'm looking first at any hand raises on our Zoom listing. Not seeing anyone on the screen. Not seeing any. So again, city members, you have 2 weeks. If something comes up, let us know. But in your silence, I'm going to assume you're good with it. And I may even convey it just like that to our commission. The city members saw it. They didn't object. We can only assume they're good with this policy. So unless you tell me otherwise, I'm going with that. Erica, are there any comments from the public on this?
No, no comments received.
Very good. Okay, so one of the undertakings that has certainly taken up some time for us that is relevant to all of you, especially I think all of the city members are part of the San Diego County Water Authority, is this proposal that we are processing in which 2 of the 24 members, Fallbrook and Rainbow, have come to LAFCO in separate but coordinated actions and are asking the question that apparently has never really been asked in 60 years, which is they would like to leave the Water Authority. What say you, LAFCO? And so in taking up what is a rather novel request because it's never been asked before of us, we are certainly in the midst of getting a whole lot of feedback from a whole lot of parties, and that includes a number of the cities have already weighed in and offered up some suggestions and or thoughts on this process. What I'd like to do is ask our Chief Policy Analyst, Robert Berry, to just briefly describe what is actually being asked of LAFCO, what that involves, and then turn it over to the committee members a little bit for your discussion, with the caveat that what we're ultimately asking of you is to provide input as you see fit going forward, not only to LAFCO's staff, but importantly to your assigned representative on a 10-member ad hoc committee that's been created by LAFCO to dive into the details and the specifics of the proposal, and that includes the controversies that come with it. And that's by way of LAFCO Chair Diane Jacob. We asked, and Lydia Romero from Lemon Grove was nice enough to say yes when we cornered her on another Zoom call. And so part of this discussion is to help Lydia represent your interest and thoughts on this proposal as we continue to have ad hoc meetings going forward. So Robert, if you could describe what is before LAFCO and perhaps some of the tentacles that are of interest to the city, and then we could open up for discussion. And certainly, Lydia, if you'd like to offer up some thoughts after Robert, that would be great too.
Thank you, Keen. Good morning, committee members. The 2 proposals that we've received from Fallbrook Public Utility District and Rainbow Municipal Water District basically propose a detachment from their existing wholesale water provider, the San Diego County Water Authority, and an annexation to another wholesale water provider, the Eastern Municipal Water District of Riverside County. The unique circumstance with these proposals is, if you're familiar with Fallbrook and Rainbow, they're the very furthest north of the 2 agencies to the west of the 15, up against the Riverside County line. The aqueduct that brings imported water down to San Diego travels through the districts and provides water from both the Water Authority as well as the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which is the provider to both Eastern MWD as a wholesaler and the County Water Authority as a wholesaler. So what the districts are proposing is to use their geographic position in the county to take their water directly from a different wholesaler from basically the same aqueduct. They are geographically positioned to do this because everything flows downstream to them to the other member agencies in the County Water Authority. And the Eastern Municipal Water District and the Metropolitan Water District have access rights to those aqueducts within the 2 district service areas. So on a very simplistic perspective, we're not really changing much. We're just changing the entity to which the wholesale water is flowing to the retail agencies from the same pipeline. However, we have opponents to the proposal, number one being the San Diego County Water Authority and its other member agencies. So the key issue with this is that the Water Authority is saying the two districts have a responsibility as member agencies to help offset the capital improvement costs and other indebtedness that the Water Authority holds for the other member agencies. We've yet to see that specific figure that comes into play with the County Water Authority Administrative Code for a district that wants to be excluded from the Water Authority. There's a mechanism that was adopted when the Water Authority Act was approved in the 1940s that addresses how the revenues would flow back to the Water Authority until whatever those identified debts are paid off. The other issue is the potential impacts to the other ratepayers in the Water Authority for picking up the remaining costs for the imported water that are currently being allocated, and how that would affect the other remaining member agencies, the cities, as well as the special districts. So it's highly controversial in the sense that the Water Authority is completely opposed to this. They see it as an environmental issue in terms of the source of the water coming from the Delta area of Northern California versus the Colorado River. They see this as being unavoidable increases in costs to the other member agencies in terms of infrastructure and rates, as well as somewhat upsetting the cart of the Water Authority itself in terms of how imported water is brought into the county and distributed. Eastern Municipal Water District does not currently operate within the county. So part of the annexation would be to create a new service area to replace that wholesale existing service area of the Water Authority with Eastern. So there's a number of issues that we're addressing. We have a ad hoc advisory committee that the executive officer mentioned that is reviewing these. We're currently reviewing consultants to look at specific issues in terms of environment, financial impacts, as well as water supply issues between the Delta and the Colorado River, potential environmental consequences. And we are working with the county on any property tax exchange and how that would be arranged to comply with the County Water Authority Act in terms of their requirements for agencies that would be excluded from the Water Authority and continued payments to pay off any debts. So those are the basic issues that we're dealing with right now. At the same time, we're working on an MSR for the Fallbrook region that includes the two water agencies, plus North County Fire, San Luis Rey MWD, which does ground, and CSA 81, which does parks and rec services in Fallbrook. So those are really more service-related, complete comprehensive views, where the two proposals obviously are more project-related. However, there's a lot of overlapping issues because of the regional implications of the proposals and the Water Authority's objections to the detachments and how that would affect the remainder of the county, basically, that's receiving imported water. So we have ongoing advisory committee meetings. We are working towards finalizing the consultant hiring and working towards the other issues in terms of any terms and conditions requested by the County Water Authority. Today was the deadline that we established for comments to be provided on the proposals. That was a 90-day extended comment period. We have received a flurry of submittals today, as was expected, one of which from the County Water Authority, which is going to be posted to our website. So for the two proposals, we have a dedicated page on our website that includes all the correspondence and meeting materials for the advisory committee, as well as the application materials we receive, the plan for services, and other related materials. So I'm available if anybody has any questions. We'd be happy to discuss anything at this point, but that's a great body of information to catch up to speed on what's going on currently. And I have yet to read the County Water Authority's comments that were submitted today, which I'm looking forward to.
Thank you, Robert. And then as your representative on this ad hoc committee, which we very much appreciate, Lydia, do you have any thoughts or comments you'd like to provide the colleagues as you continue in this process?
Absolutely. If you all have any insights after reading some of the LAFCO materials that you don't necessarily want to put in public comment, reach out to me. You all have my email from the CCMA list, or if you have any specific points you want to discuss, please just give me a call. Again, you have my contact information. The first two meetings were really more background and setup. I think our next meeting, which will be October 5th, is going to be, I think, a lot more meaty, is when we're going to have I think, a more robust discussion about the consultants. And it's been a very interesting process thus far. And my hat's off to Keenan for trying to walk that fine line and moderate a neutral process when there's definitely high interest and on both ends of that scale.
Thank you, Lydia. So, and as Lydia mentioned, certainly comments directly to Lydia would make sense as your representative to the ad hoc committee. But if there are any general observations or inquiries, certainly we can field them as well. I'm looking at the participant list. I don't see any hands raised, and I don't see any hands or eyebrows raised on the video feed. So, Erica, are there any?
Yeah, I do have one question. This is
Oh,
Tony.
go ahead. Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Go ahead, Tony.
I was just curious, in addition to LAFCO, if there are additional regulatory hurdles that Fallbrook and Rainbow have to clear.
Good question. Robert, are there any regulatory hurdles that they would need to clear with Met or anyone else?
No, nothing that they're not already required to abide by. What we would do, basically, LAFCO has sole authority on the change of the jurisdictional boundaries. So there is no other entity that would have an additional say on that process. But as you're aware, with drinking water, there's a whole number of different levels of regulatory bodies overseeing it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Any other questions? Okay, very good. And again, please reach out to Lydia. Paz, did you have anything?
Yes, so I was just wondering with regards to the timeline associated with the consultant that's getting brought on board. Could you share a little bit more information on that, please?
So we've are hoping to finalize the selection of one or more consultants in the next few weeks. Our guess is, and I should say that we're bringing on a consultant to address these three particular topics, at least in the initial phase that's in your agenda report. We're asking an outside consultant to address water supply reliability, i.e., is there really, for our purposes, a substantive difference between the water sources and reliability therein, between what the Water Authority has in their stable versus what Eastern has, which is basically the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Water Authority certainly believes so. Met certainly believes there's no difference. But nevertheless, we're going to look at the topic. The second being ratepayer impacts. Not only are we asking our consultant to weigh in on what exactly are the savings to Fallbrook and Rainbow if they were to be allowed to detach, but equally, what are the impacts to all of you and others in San Diego County should these two entities leave? And then the third immediate and probably critical question that will be on the minds of our commission, should there be an exit or departure fee? And would LAFCO make that a condition? And would that condition be a poison pill? Maybe we think that the number is 0. Well, we'll show the math behind it. Maybe we think the number is 0 times 8. And of course, that might have its own discussion with the member agencies and certainly our applicants. I would assume that the consultant Paz is going to at least weigh in and tell us whether they believe the information by our applicants and or by other parties, which is the best path to follow, i.e. who's made the better case as to what the truth is behind those three questions. I don't anticipate the commission weighing in on this topic at least until the end of 2021, if not in 22, just because of the weightiness of these three topics. And then separate, but just, I always like to give, I like the idea of leaving a cliffhanger with everyone. The one issue that our consultant is not going to weigh in on, but LAFCO will weigh in on it because the Water Authority has requested it as a condition, is if LAFCO were to approve these reorganizations, would we require that it be a vote of the entire member agency constituency base? The baseline under LAFCO law is that if we were to approve these proposals, only the registered voters in Fallbrook and or Rainbow would vote. What the Water Authority has already requested is that if we were to approve these proposals, that we include all 24 member agencies, which I believe include all of you, and ask that all of your registered voters weigh in on this topic. Just for the benefit of math, the difference is an election cost of $300,000 versus an election cost of $9.5 million. So you can imagine the applicants certainly are not wild about this prospect just on a cost basis, but it is an issue that we will look into down the line. So Paz, a long way to say, not a firm deadline, but end of 21, I anticipate the consultants being somewhat done and it being in the hands of the commission, or at least as early as the end of 21.
So will it just be LAFCO staff interacting with the consultant, or would Lydia or any of the others in this group be participating as well?
So no, the advisory committee or the ad hoc committee will interact and provide real-time input to the consultants. Ultimately, LAFCO staff and Roberts, the project manager, will provide firm direction, but the commission was quite clear when they created the ad hoc committee that they wanted the input of these 10 different members to help guide our process and be as transparent as possible. So if Lydia and the 9 others tell me and Robert this needs to be addressed, I'm pretty sure it will be addressed.
If I can offer, I think LAFCO staff's role is going to be to work directly with the consultant to obtain the answers to the committee's questions. They're very specific in terms of topic, and they require an overview of the affected agencies in those specific issue areas. So we're going to be working with them to address and provide the feedback that the committee and the commission is asking for these particular proposals. So all feedback that's generated from the committee members and just about anybody else is going to be on the table. We want to cover all of our bases going forward so that all issues can be addressed through this process.
Thank you, Robert.
Just for clarification, you were talking about the 10-member ad hoc committee, but not necessarily the city's advisory committee. And I think that was what I was addressing with regards to our interface to provide feedback and receive feedback as well with regards to the process and where we're at in the drafting and things along those lines.
So at this point, Paz, the conduit for the city's advisory committee, other than these meetings we hold twice a year, is through your representative, Lydia. So we would ask, and we said the same thing to the special district advisory committee. They have an appointed member that it go through your representative in real time, but also, you know, in this case, every 6 months we'll have a meeting. I'm certainly confident that in 6 months this proposal will still be active. So you have 2 options. The best and in real time would be to go through Lydia.
So so maybe this would be directed to Lydia. Then will there be kind of progress reports or interaction with this committee, or are we waiting until the next biennial meeting of this particular committee?
If I could offer, this is a very public process. Everybody is welcome to participate and provide comments. We'll have ongoing advisory committee meetings for these proposals that'll be available on YouTube Live, as well as inclusion. All feedback can come to me personally as the project manager, to Keen as the executive officer, to Lydia as the representative of the advisory committee. But what we want to do is just make sure that we're covering all of the questions and the feedback that we're getting from the consultants to answer the committee's questions. So there's an open door for everyone to participate as far as providing feedback. If you would like to coordinate with Lydia as the representative to bring formal specific proposals to the advisory committee, that's perfectly acceptable. But please feel free to let everyone know that everyone can provide comments on these. It will be an open public process.
And Paz, if the group would like to have like a progress, an update after each one of the ad hoc meetings, I can definitely work with the LAFCO team to put one together and then send it out to this group in advance of our 6-month meeting. So you get those progress report updates. And then again, with all the real-time information. I have no problem to do that. It's probably a 1-page memo to you all, if that's what you'd like.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Very good. And Paz, thank you for that. Any other questions, thoughts, observations, edicts? Robert, I wasn't thinking you, but go ahead.
Sorry, I know we're going to be closing the meeting in a couple of minutes. I wanted to throw out very quickly in terms of the ag policy, 2 things. This is an update to an existing policy. I personally work very closely with planning and development staff with the cities in the county for projects that involve agricultural conversion. All of you guys are dealing with that through CEQA, the local approval process, well before it gets to us. So part of the policy is to provide an identifier of what LAFCO needs for these types of projects so that the cities and the counties with land use authority can accommodate our needs once the proposal follows to us. So we're working very early on with local staff to address agricultural conversion issues within the context of the local general plan and their priorities, and then to make it digestible for the LAFCO annexation process and our prerequisites. So as long as the cities and the counties are addressing this adequately for our policies and procedures, as well as the CEQA requirements under LISA and agricultural conversion issues, everything is going to remain the same. What we're trying to do is make sure that we're current with the agricultural circumstance in the county, and we follow the land use authority of the cities and the county on agricultural conversions. We are just required to address these issues. And so we want to make sure that the cities and counties are aware of this policy and the specific LAFCO definitions. Some of you I've worked with on these in the past, but this is really for the benefit of the local agencies to understand how they can address the LAFCO issues at the earliest stage possible. So any feedback and any questions, you're more than welcome to give me a call or an email, and I'd be happy to explain. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. So we've made progress. We're down now to committee member announcements. Are there any comments, general and or specific, for us at LAFCO? I'm looking first at the participant list for any hands raised. Don't see any. Any on the screen? Don't see any. So our next meeting will be in 6 months. It's 11:45, promise kept. Thank you all for being on the call today, and we will look forward to our next update with you all very soon. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you.